Hi, I'm Benjamin Mack-Jackson, founder of the World War II Veterans History Project. I started this project in the summer of 2015 with the goal of providing knowledge and inspiration to my generation so they can better appreciate and understand what these heroes went through. My mission is to preserve the memories of the greatest generation. In this episode of the Veterans History Project, tail gunner Sam Mastrogiacomo shares his experiences fighting for control of the sky in Europe while in a B-24 bomber. From modifying his airplane to better fit his height, to serving alongside the movie star Jimmy Stewart, his story will have you at the edge of your seat. Hear his account of his crew's capture by the Swedish and how he escaped after 6 months of captivity. Here's his story.
Sam Mastrogiacomo, and I left the military as a master sergeant. Right after Pearl Harbor, I was working in a machine shop, and predominantly German descent, German people. And the Germans were great machinists. And when Pearl Harbor happened, the day after, my boss, who was the owner, he came up to me and he said, our Atlantic fleet is destroyed. He said, we better start learning to speak German or Japanese. So I said, not if I could help it. On the bulletin board, I seen a sign, if you have perfect eyes and good health, you can be an aircrew member and a bomber. So I said, oh, that sounds good. So I went over and I took the examination. I passed everything, and they signed me up to be a gunner, sent me out to be a gunner. They sent me to Texas to go to air gunnery school. That's our plane with the BTO with Circle F. So that's our bomb group with Circle F. And I was in the backhead of the tail turret. So I like the tail turret and the thing I adopted. And I was too big for the tail turret, actually, too tall. I had long legs and all. I had to modify the turret a little bit so I got big feet. And getting in and out, I always catch the heel of my feet on the edge of the seat. So I cut the seat away with a hacksaw, and then with a valve, I always hit my right knee. It's a shut-off valve. So I heated the tubing and bent it over so I had more clearance for my knee. So that was my job, my plane.
Sam Mastrogiacomo and his bomb crew took part in the Gotham Mission. The Gotham Mission was the longest continuous air battle of World War II. The fierce combat between American bombers and German fighter planes lasted over 2.5 hours. The mission received its name due to the location of the target, a Messerschmitt 110 assembly plant near Gotha, Germany.
Our plane was selected to have the camera on the bottom hatch to show the bomb strikes. And I was supposed to, on the bomb run, like 7 minutes before onto the target, I was supposed to get out of the turret and turn this camera on to record the bomb strikes. But anyway, And we had a pretty good position. We were in the lead element, and it seemed like an hour into the mission, we started to get hit by fighters. This plane started to go down. We were being attacked, and before we had a pretty good position. I had planes behind us, and all at once I started to see less and less planes behind us because they were being shot down. And this Goring's special squadron, they had the yellow nose, and they were really experienced pilots, and like each German fighter pilot had maybe 25, 50 planes to their credit already. And when we seen that yellow nose Focke-Wulf 190s and Messerschmitts, we knew we were in trouble because the yellow nose, they were a little better than the normal pilot. At least 220 millimeters hit my turret, and those 20 millimeters were made so like they blow apart when they hit on contact. So they hit my turret, and then all at once I'm feeling something out of my neck, and it's burning. And we had the fur collars, the fleece line. I look at it, it's red, and I look at my fingers, and it's red. And they knew that the tail turret got hit, and the pilot said, "Sam, are you all right? Sam, are you all right?" I hear him over my interphone, but I was in shock over there. And then I had to put throw my bite mic on, and so he said, Bill Powell, go back, see how Sam's doing." So he come back, and I guess I was in shock or something, and maybe my face was white, I don't know. "Sam, are you all right?" And I pointed my collar. I thought I got hit, and something, I was afraid to feel my neck. I thought like it was a big hole in my neck or something. I felt, and he looked at it, and he started laughing. He said, "You're right, it's only hydraulic fluid." One of the hydraulic lines that go across, and the hydraulic fluid is red. And it hit that line, and it's hot, from working. I thought I was wounded. I thought, oh, that's the end. And it was a big relief. I found out I wasn't wounded. It was just the hydraulic fluid. On that mission, we lost 13 out of the 25 airplanes that we went over the target with. And anyway, when we landed, Jimmy Stewart, he was the movie actor. He was a commanding officer in our outfit. He come run out the airplane, and he said, "How'd you do? How'd you do?" So our navigator said, "We lost most of our airplanes." Oh, he wiped his brow and jumped back in a Jeep, and he was like this. When we went to the mess hall right after to eat, and the scene that morning, we had all the guys were hustling and a lot of activity, and everybody was lively. And when we went back to the mess hall, it looked like we're half the mess hall, more than half as empty, and it felt so. Didn't feel like eating anymore, I tell you. So it was a lonesome feeling. And we went back to the barrack, and the 3 bomber crews in each barrack, and we were the only ones left in the barracks. I felt a little better when they told us we're going to get the presidential unit citation for the mission. And they took the pictures of our camera that showed and it showed like a 90% hit of the target area. And we hit the Messerschmitt aircraft factory, and there was planes lined up, and it was snowing on the ground. It was snow. It was a cold day, and with the snow on the ground, you could see the airplanes that were lined up to go. New airplanes that would be shipped out, and we hit right amongst that. We hit the factory. So I think it was 85% of the factory was destroyed.
We'll be right back with more exciting stories from World War II veteran Sam Mastrogiacomo. After the break, you will hear about how he was shot down over Sweden and how he escaped after 6 months of captivity.
If you notice, I got 13 letters in my last name, and it was like an issue. I had 13th mission, and I got 13 letters in my last name, and my serial number. Before they didn't. Now they have your Social Security number for when you go into service, but they gave you a number when you in World War II. According to you, like Pennsylvania with 13. So my serial number start with a 13 and an end with a 13. And I got 13 letters in my last name. So I said, if I get through the 13th mission, it'll be a cinch. So sure enough, on the 13th mission, we got shot up. I'm sitting at the tail turret, and I see all these planes behind us. And pretty soon, when we got like about maybe halfway there was less and less airplanes behind us. And I called the navigator. I said, there's hardly any planes behind us. I don't know what happened though. I don't know, we're going on to the target. I think we're supposed to have like 520 airplanes. And I'm looking at it, I counted only 28 airplanes. But we're going on to the target. And all once the German fighter planes come up after us. And usually they had nose attacks, were not too often, but this time was nose attacks. And they come like four at a time blasting at us. And in his tail turret, all I could do is fire at them when they went by. And I fired at a few of them, and I know I hit a couple in the tail as they come by, you know. And then all once I see cowling and I see pieces of airplanes come flying towards my tail turret, and they went by. And I said, somebody got hit. So I flight engineer, he said, yeah, it's us. So it was number one engine got hit, the cowling come flying off, and it 20 millimeter hit the cylinder and it froze the engine, and it caught fire. They have a fire extinguisher they can turn on inside the cockpit, and he put the fire extinguisher and it still wouldn't go out. So the pilot said, we're going to dive and try to get the fire out. So he did dive down and got the fire out. By that time we're pretty low, and he said, I'm going to stay at this altitude. He said, we won't be picked up by radar as easy, you know, flying low like that. And he said, if they dive down on us, it's dangerous for the fighter pilots because a lot of times they can't pull out. Anyway, the navigator says, all right, look out for any planes because we're till end Charlie, we're by ourselves, and watch out for enemy planes. So we were looking, we're flying along the Baltic Sea by this time, and I'm looking, and I see three things out there. I said, look, maybe it's birds. It's like three ducks or something. And I said something to the navigator. I said, I see 3 objects back there. He said, yeah, keep your eye on them. So sure enough, they got closer. It was 3 falk wolves. As soon as I could recognize them, I gave them a couple bursts of, even though they were a little bit out of range, but let them know that I'm alive, that I'm going to shoot at. So they come in close, and out of the 3 of them, one was a little braver, and he'd stick out, fire at us. And when he'd come out a little more than the other, I'd blast him, Finally, I shot one of them down, and then the other 2 coming over, try to shoot us down. And the top turret gunner, he got one of them, and with the one guy left by himself. And he wasn't going to take us on by himself, or easy to run out of ammunition. I don't know what reason, but he peeled off and left. Our navigator said, we're about 100 miles from Sweden. And Sweden is a neutral country, so we all yelled over the interphone about the same time, let's go to Sweden. We didn't know if we're going to be prisoners of war, or if they're going to get killed, or be able to plane keep on flying. I don't know. So we're heading over the Baltic Sea. Navigator, there was an aerodrome in front of the pilot, a little glass aerodrome, and he used to look out that. He used to call out German fighter planes. So he's looking out there, and he says, keep your eyes open, keep your eyes open. All at once, I see a plane coming at us, and I said, that's not a Focke-Wulf. It's not an ME-109. It's not a 210. I said, and I'm remembering on an aircraft identification that what they showed us, the silhouettes, and I said, that looks like an Italian airplane. A Machi looked different. So he was afraid to come too close to us. So the navigator says, don't shoot at that airplane. When he got a little closer, And so then he turns his wings over, and the bottom of the wing you can see is a blue crown with a blue circle with 3 crowns. That's a Swedish airplane. So he said, don't fire at it. So when he found out we were not going to fire at him, he coming close, and he's shown the pilot, follow him, But we landed on this island, and we're running out of runway, and we're going. There's a stone fence at the end, and we're running right toward that stone fence. And I don't know, it was lucky we ground looped and stopped right before that stone fence. If we would have hit that, it could blow the airplane up. The navigator says, leave your guns on the airplane. When we come out of the airplane, and here these soldiers are running towards us with machine guns. And he says, okay, put your hands up. So we put our hands up. And we said, American Fliegers. And one of the soldiers says, for you, the war is over. I think the second day we were there, we see we had a pastor's barrack similar to the one we were staying, and it's 5 steps up into the door of the barracks, and big wide steps. And when we walked by it, we started here, Americans, pigs, gangsters, American swines. What the heck is that? So the guard said, oh, that's the German prisoners. And then next day we hear again, American swines, gangsters, catcalling, you know. And so the third day I said, hey, if they do that again, and they were sitting on the steps, you know, in front of the barracks. I said, if they do that again, why would we charge them, beat the heck out of them? We wanted some action anyway. And I was the leader. I said, we'll charge them, beat the heck out of them. Yeah, okay. So sure enough, the third day we're going by and they said, American guys. So I said, let's get them. So we had a Swedish guard in front of us and one behind us. And we broke ranks and we charged these guys and we beat the heck out of them. And I remember, and I'm from South Philly, we're used to fighting, you know. And so I picked up a little guy, and there were three guys. I'm on top of the steps, and the three guys that heading for me. And when I picked the little guy up, and I threw him, we were the seventh airplane that ever landed in Sweden, so as the war went on, there got to be more and more planes had an emergency landing in Sweden, and it got to be more and more. So then they made a camp for us and sent us a camp, which wasn't too bad. I mean, the food wasn't real good, but we complained about a lot of fish. They give us fish all the time. They said, that's what we eat. At the camp, we had about 400 in the camp. And they left us alone. I mean, they didn't force labor or anything like that. And the guys hang around, played cards, and they had card tournaments. And they had two big lakes in the camp. And they said you could go fishing on the lake, on the one lake, and the other lake you could use it for boating. And they had canoes and they had kayaks, and we could use their canoes and kayaks and rowboats. So we said we don't have a diving board, or we don't have a diving board. So I said, it'd be nice if we get some lumber. We can put a diving platform, you know, like 3 stories high. So I said, how about you give us some lumber? Okay, so they gave us lumber, and we built a diving platform, three stories high, you know. And we used to use that. I was a little scared to go up 30 feet, the high one, and finally I got enough nerve so I could dive in. So they were looking for volunteers. The airplanes were coming in damaged, you know, and shot up. So they needed some Americans to work on the airplanes. And some airplanes, they had an engine out or something, and we take what they call cannibalizing, where they take the good parts out of it. So if a plane had a good engine, would put the good engine on where the bad engine would. And then one of the first things we had to do was take all the guns out of the airplanes. And took all the guns out, and then we sorted them with Cosmoline. That was my job, was taking all the guns out. And out of the camp of about 400 guys, we only had 5 guys that volunteered to work. And the guys, my buddies, I said, I'm going to go work on the airplanes. And they're going, what's the matter with you? We're sitting around there, we don't have to do nothing. You want to go work on the airplanes? I said, yeah, I'm bored. So it was a good deal. We went to work on the airplanes. They put us up in the hotel. They used to take us for a walk every day after supper. So one of our walks, I think we were there about like the 12th day. One of our walks, they said, see, that embankment, that railroad embankment, go over that embankment. So they marched us over the embankment. Here's a B-24 at the end of a runway with 2 engines running. And they said, power in that airplane. So we powered in. Oh, who's flying that airplane? You don't have to know, just get powered. And that's how are we going to get 35 guys in that airplane? A bomber, you know, it's only made for. So we found out the bomb bay is the biggest part. They put plywood in there because I don't know if you ever seen on the B-24, they have a piano, like piano heads, and 2 on the pans, you'd go right through that door. So what they did, they put plywood in there, like, and most of us got in that bomb bay. And they said, the Swedes are going to shoot at you, but when we take off, but don't worry, they're not going to hit you. So we roared down the runway, and sure enough, we heard bullets flying by. But they weren't hitting us. But we got airborne, and the big part about it, we had no parachutes, no guns on the airplane, nothing. And we were going to fly over Germany, and so we just praying that we didn't got spotted. We landed a base in France, a secret air base, and it's dark at night, you know, like. And they picked a real dark night because a moonlight night you could be able to see. So anyway, we landed at that base where it's pitch dark, and we go into this building, and then I was here English women, and hello, and it was so dark we couldn't even see each other, and this English wife says, "Hello, boys. How you have your eggs?" Eggs? We haven't seen eggs for 6 months. He said, "How you have your eggs? Scramble? How's your bacon? Potatoes?" And we hadn't seen bacon and eggs and potatoes. So they gave us breakfast, and then he marched us right back out to the airplane, and we took off. And we landed in Scotland, somewhere. And he said, you have to go back to your base. We had no uniforms, you know, and they get back, clear out of the base, they give you uniforms, and they're going to go back to the States.
Mr. Mastrogiacomo is 93 years old and lives in Edgewater, Florida with his wife, Joan. They have 7 children. To learn more about the World War II Veterans History Project, please visit our website at www.veteranshistoryproject.com. We look forward to seeing you again for more exciting stories from the greatest generation.
Production support for the Veterans History Project is made possible by the Parity Financial Group, proudly saluting the extraordinary students who make up our future generation, and the military veterans from the greatest generation.